rise above the static, dissecting issues diplomatic. With mics in hand, they brave the storm of clashing views and norms transform. The Pundits Podcast, bold and true, shining lights on red and blue. Through heated takes and reasoned thought, they seek the truth that can't be bought. From climate change to foreign ties, they pause the spinning and sift the lies. No stone unturned, no topic taboo, as left and right come into view.
Hey everybody, it's Razib here with Conversation. I think it's number 29 right now. And this is kind of a big deal on this conversation because as you guys noticed, Josiah looks very different than he usually does. Kind of gone through a transformation. He's in a gym right now. And this is just showing you what bro science can do after 7 days. Right, Josiah?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. All joking aside, I am here with Pax Dickinson, who is most well known as the former CTO Business Insider. But we will get into Pax's journey over the last, more than a decade now. Wow, it's more than a decade.
Yeah, more than a decade.
Being in the public sphere, because before that he just took a tech guy. But first we want to talk about, cancellations and uncancellations. And so the quick context for those of you who have not been on social media, which is I know some of you, is that a staffer at Doge, a 25-year-old gentleman named Marko Elez, of Croatian-American background, it turned out that he was putting spicy tweets under his own name on social media at the end of last year, so 2024. And basically when the tweets surfaced, he resigned. And then a bunch of people on social media, including Pax, but myself as well, but then Balaji Srinivasan, then JD Vance, and then Elon kind of came in. And we're saying, maybe we shouldn't fire him. Maybe we should give him a second chance. And and just for the context for the people, I should probably read the tweets. What is it? Normalize Indian hate. That he was racist before it was cool. He's against miscegenation. He supported eugenics. I think those are the main things. So whatever. I don't want to say whatever, but there's a lot of crap on the internet. Normally under anons, he actually used his real name. So that was I'm not gonna lie.
He didn't really use his. He had a real name account, and then he changed it to an anon account. Name, and but it's the same account. Yeah, it's the same account. So but then he deleted it, and they somehow went back into either archives.
Yeah.
Or,
So the question here is, I don't know. I haven't done the research, unfortunately, but when he had a real name account, was he as spicy, or was it just when he became more prominent? He was like,
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think the spicy stuff is from the anon era.
Okay, so
don't know because we only know what the reporter.
Yeah, and as we're recording, Elon's like, we're gonna give him a chance again, and all this stuff. I guess. Actually, I know you have a lot to say, I think, on this. So I'm going to give my take because I don't have as much to say. I guess, one thing I have to be honest about it, uncanceling this guy, the issue is uncanceling or opposing cancellation really matters when it's hard. So if he's done some, innocuous things, everyone's like, why would you cancel him? You're crazy, But, okay, he's in Doge. It's a public position. He's actually working with Indians, and he tweeted, normalize Indian hate. Also, he wasn't 17. He was 25, which, people are saying he's a kid. I have to be honest. If you can get convicted of murder, you know what I'm trying to say? So basically, when you're 18, so for example, if some 20-year-old actress is dating a 50-year-old guy, do I think it's a little weird? Yeah. But do I agree with the online scolds that are age gap, it's a child? I'm like, no, you're 18. So, I will apply that to Marco, that the whole kid stuff, that's probably the part I agree with the least. Okay. When you're a 25-year-old human being, you have all the responsibilities. A lot of people have kids. People start having kids in their mid 20s, and a lot of, not in the America that works at Doge, but a lot of America. So that's one thing. As far as like what he said, obviously it's offensive to normal people. But the problem is what's on the internet and what people use in their anon accounts is often kind of, I mean, I don't know his heart. I don't know the person. He could actually be totally different. There are people who literally tweet anti-Indian things and they're married to Indian people, you find out.
Right.
So it's like, what's going on there? Well, they're kind of playing an online role, like character. I don't know. We don't know. Everything happened really quickly. So that's another thing, because people are like, you should apologize. And like, you don't know what he said to people. We don't know. And
Right.
I don't think we should know. This is like an internal HR thing. It's like, honestly, should we know what every single federal appointee thinks about everything? No. And so I think that that's part of it. And then in terms of whether this makes it so his coworkers are not able to work with him, well, okay, I mean, like the fundamental problem is, if like, let's say like your workplace is like 20% black, and it came out that you were dropping the N-word all the time, and let's say you're a white person or a non-black person on your social media account, it's going to be an issue. You probably have to address it. If they know who you are and they know that you were doing it in a joking way, honestly, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a big problem for most people.
Right.
If you're like a genuinely hardcore racist, I do think like you need to like take a look in the mirror and maybe find a different job, because you do have to like at some point practice what you preach. And if you do actually like believe that and you're working with these people, it's just like, I mean, okay, I know you have to have a job, but I mean, there's a limiting condition to all these things. No one gets like a total 100% pass. What we're trying to say, I mean, I guess what I would say here, and I'll let you speak for yourself soon, is this was not great, maybe even egregious, but we have to be really careful, in my opinion, of canceling people willy-nilly, because a lot of people have a lot of things that you could object to in the whole wide world. And so it's kind of like, maybe I would say it's moving the burden of proof from the way it was a couple of years ago, where you're guilty until proven innocent, until you're innocent until proven guilty. So I don't know what's in his heart. Maybe, I mean, he's Croatian, so maybe he would have been a member of the Ustaša, liquidating Jews. I don't know. I'm joking about that. I joked about that online because he deserves it, because if he jokes about hating Indians, I'm going to joke about him being like worse than a Nazi. Like, who cares, right? It's just like, that's the game you're playing now, right? But I assume, actually, if you want me to be honest, if Elon's bringing him back, I assume conversations have been had. I assume actually all of that stuff that he said online, like he's explained or contextualized or apologized or done whatever. And if I were them, I actually wouldn't like make him do some, unless he wants to, like do some walk of shame apology like they used to do back in the day, because that's humiliating. That's cultural revolution stuff. Organizations should take care of this stuff internally. That's my opinion. But anyway, you say your piece.
Right. I mean, I think like, when we're getting into cancel culture, we're getting into stuff that's like, is it relevant to your job? Are his tweets, which were on a deleted account, he deleted that account. So he's not posting this under his real name or standing by it and trying to be like, this is my avowed belief. He's shit posting. And I mean, the fact that he did it anonymously and that he deleted the account shows that, but like in cancel culture, that's the thing. Like, there are a lot of cancellations like prior in the like intellectual and political world. And it's like people writing things under their real name and they're being canceled for their beliefs. And that's like not really cancel culture. That's like, maybe it's wokeness, maybe it's political correctness, but cancel culture is really when they take things out, like, they take content that you wrote under a pseudonym. They take content that you wrote a long time ago and then deleted, and maybe you're not standing by it. They take content that you deleted after you got canceled, or content that you posted privately, like the James Damore. He didn't publish that.
It was on the intranet, on Google's intranet.
Right. Yeah. Right. Content that was obviously humor or parody or satire, and it's being willfully taken out of context by the people trying to cancel you, and it has nothing to do with your job. To me, that's like cancel culture. So like when they, so we don't know about this guy. We don't We know he posted pseudonymously. We know he deleted it before he had the job at Doge. We don't know the context. We don't know if he was, if these were all in the context of jokes. We have no idea because we're only being told what this Wall Street Journal person who has an axe to grind found out. So we really don't know like what was the context of the things he's saying. And my cancellation, the things were taken egregiously out of context. I made jokes that were
Get into that. That in the paywall, like
right.
I'll talk a little bit. I don't talk about it too much, but it's not as I don't know. Yours was multi-layered, multi-episode. So
Right.
there's gonna be a lot more to say about that. So I guess like the question that I have here is and I tweeted this out. Just what was it like? Tweeting out like normalize hate against and then different groups. And I tweeted out like a bunch of different. I just want to see how it felt, kind of.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest. Tweeting out like normalize hate against blacks and normalize hate against Jews. I was kind of like, I don't know, like feeling I got a different vibe from those than all the others. You know what I'm saying? So if he said like normalize hating Jews, do you think he could be uncanceled? Let's be honest.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe. I was saying the other day that I don't know if he would have been uncanceled if he said it about blacks. I don't know, and probably Jews too. Probably.
I mean, because don't you feel? Yeah. I think we just need to. I think we just need to. I don't know, maybe talk about it, but just acknowledge. You can say different things about different races and people. Will take it differently. So I don't know. Like normalize hating academics. No one would care really. They'd just be like, "Wow, you're mean against academics," but no one would cancel you for that. Right. Normalizing hating lawyers, you would get like claps.
Yeah.
So there's like certain groups. You're like, okay, that's good. Normalize hating people from Mississippi. Now this is a border case where people from Alabama would be like, yeah, but then there would be other people from the South. Like, are you just hating Southern people? And then there'd be racial people would be like, it's because it's got a lot of black people, huh? There'd be all sorts of reasons where people are like, you can't hate Mississippi, or like if I say something against the South, or the Southern people say something against New York, or it was who was it? Ted Cruz said some crap about New York in a debate with Donald Trump in 2016, and Trump came back and he was like defended New York, and all these libs were like, whoa, like yeah, Right. You don't know how this is gonna shape out in terms of who aligns with who. And then when you go like the racial, ethnic stuff, that's where it's like, it's starting to get a little dicey in American culture. That is like more of a third rail. Whereas I would say normalize hating Episcopalians, normalize hating Baptists, normalize hating Mormons. It just like it doesn't land the same way. So like, okay, like we're talking like racial categories in particular. If we say normalize hating rednecks, I think that a lot of people would actually get offended because
they would
have a sense of rednecks as like, lower middle class whites. And it's like, what are you trying to do here?
Right.
And so I would say normalize hating Indians. I know the people are saying it's probably H-1B context. We don't know. I have to be honest. I think there's been all this like anti-Indian stuff that's like come up. I think a lot of it, I think people don't care as much because in the United States, Indians are pretty well off. I think like that's fundamentally the dichotomy, and people aren't really addressing it, partly just because it's all really new. But like Indians, like I just said this, like Indians say that they're like, oh, we're like the new Jews. And I'm like, have you heard about anti-Semitism? So it's like once a group is in a position of power and dominance, and I mean, I think kind of agree. I mean, it's like I went to DC to a bunch of inauguration balls. There's a bunch of brown people there, not like a call center or anything like that, whatever. But I mean, like, there's a substantial number. There are more brown people at the MAGA parties than black people, I would say, So it's like they're there. We got Kash Patel, Tulsi's Hindu, not Indian, but whatever. There's just like, they're there. Part of the anti-Indian racism is partly because like they're there in the halls of power. Usha's there. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like, I mean, like fucking JD vegetarian food. And so I think what you're partly seeing is a reaction to Indian power, which a lot of people, it's just like, if it's a powerful group, it doesn't feel, it's like normalized hatred against white people. I never like that sort of stuff, but the explanation is, well, you're punching up. And I think a lot of people feel they're punching up against Indians, right?
And the Wall Street Journal would never try to cancel you for that.
No. The normalized hatred against white people was, in fact, it was kind of like almost like edgy funny, accepted mainstream.
Right.
Right? So there are certain types of edgy jokes that were accepted by the cultural arbiters, like a reporter at the Wall Street Journal, as ha ha, or I mean, I think this is going into decline because they know what the problem was, like, ha ha, dumb white dude.
Right.
Right? There was a whole thing over the last decade of basically Hollywood and the advertising industry
Yeah.
make men the foils in all their ads, right? And it was just accepted. Well, a lot of people got sick of it, not just white guys. Like, a lot of people just got sick of it.
I think to a certain extent, it's just like no one else is allowed to be the butt of the joke anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost like the default, you have to make it a white guy because you're not allowed to make fun of a woman. You're not allowed to make fun of a black person. You're not allowed to make fun of somebody of any other race. You're only allowed to make fun of a straight white man. And it's not even, you don't even necessarily need to hate straight white men to just be like, I'm not going to get in trouble if I make a straight white man the butt of this joke.
Yeah, I do understand. I do understand. We've talked about this, but and just just like I know that you live in. I mean, I'm not doxing you. I think it's well known you live in Austin.
Yeah,
we know each other socially, just like I know you socially. So this conversation is partly just conversation between friends too. So we know each other, and one thing we have talked about, we don't talk about this all the time, okay? But just like being a straight white male, it's kind of like your just affect, the way you talk amongst yourselves, everything is considered toxic.
Right.
Whereas, like, if I'm a gay guy, like, just to be, give real examples, if I'm a gay guy and I'm talking about all of, like, the twinks I fucked and stuff, it's like, you go, guy.
Yeah.
Like, and if you're a woman, it's like, oh, she's like empowering herself through her sexuality. Like, would you ever say that about a straight guy? No.
Yeah, no, never.
Oh, it's like our sexuality is like supposedly dangerous. So there's like this progressive stack rank that's implicit in culture. I think that's what I think the right is trying to kind of tear down. I will say, so you said like he turned into an anon. I will say one of the problems that's happening is and you were never an anon. So
I was briefly, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean it wasn't like for your,
Yeah.
I know people, I'm not gonna say who it is, but it's a friend of mine. So I was in DC and I know people that are anons online and they're obsessed with getting doxxed and their identity and they all the spicy shit. And so they have like two identities. And if you do that for like over 10 years, like this person has done this for 10 years, it starts to get a little weird the way they behave, the way they talk. It's because like, you can't always like keep your anon identity from your real and like keep them separate. And, I had like people actually, so this person's trying to get a job in the administration. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. I had multiple people reach out. I was like, hey, so-and-so seems cool, but like, I don't know if I can trust them. And I'm like, oh, you can trust them. I know them. But I realized what people were keying up on is this person is frankly a deceptive person because they create an anonymous identity and then they try to hide it and they kind of present a different face and people can sense that, even he's totally aligned with the Trump administration and everything like that. I know this person. There is nothing to distrust. But these other people that don't know him, they sense something is off, and that's you're playing a role in real life, and you're never really, I'm going to be honest, never really totally real. And I told you this would happen because years ago he was like, maybe I should just start like writing under my real name online, and I'm like, yeah, you probably should because like you're 30 now, like you've been doing this since you were 17, and it's starting to get weird. Anyway, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was never good at it. That's why, like, I'm much too like outspoken, and it's impossible for me to edit myself. So I was very bad at it. I did it. I had an anonymous account like right after I got canceled, and was trying to raise money for startups and stuff. And I didn't want my co-founders to suffer anything from the jokes I wanted to still make on Twitter. And so I had a secret anon account, but then I pretty much told people who it was at some point after I immolated it and got it deleted. I got it suspended instead of deleting it myself. And then I'd let people know that it had been me, and a lot of people knew. Well, some people I told, I was like, oh, I'm this anon account, and they were like, oh yeah, I know. They just knew it was me.
And also, like, let me just like talk about the whole Anon thing. I think I've talked about Josiah with this, but I don't think I've ever talked about this. I think, I'm in group chats with we're both in group chats with like a wide range of people. And a lot of people use Anons, but you can find out who they are and all this stuff. And with me, I'm like a 100%, like I'm like a total 200 proof face fag. In terms of
Right.
my everyone knows who I am pretty much. I don't really speak anonymously anywhere. To the point where sometimes people are like, I wonder what your Anon account is like. And I'm like, no, this is my Anon account. I mean, this is like, but when you're an Anon, and this is in group chats, so it's not even in public, people say like, okay, like, I don't know. It would be like, okay, like this is like an example. This is like not like real, but it would be like if Pax, you were like LARPing as, you were like, I'm a white nationalist. I only hang out with white people in like a white country and then like you don't know who you are. Then you find out you live in Austin, Texas. You're like, wait, what the fuck?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that were like doing, this one guy, I'll tell you a real story where he was like, he's kind of, expressing some anti-black racism here. And, and he's like, I'm going to go to Europe with only white people and all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, like who the fuck are you? Like, just like, I don't understand like what you're doing here because I feel like you're signaling a lot. And then it turned out, he was a junior. He wasn't a partner, but he was like a junior lawyer at a white shoes law firm in Washington, D.C. And he was totally anonymous, and he was basically like a Nazi under his anonymous stuff. But in real life, he worked with liberal lawyers,
Right. Yeah.
It's like, I basically like told him off. I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, you're just like playing a game online. Like, none of this is real. I don't know how to engage with you because I think this is like you're playing Civilization 2 or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't really know.
No, it does.
I get it. It's fun to like joke around and LARP. Just give me the temperature so I know if I should engage you or not. Because when you're saying things like this and then it turns out like you're obviously just like a gamer or something,
Yeah. Right.
fulfilling some role in your head. And like, when I confronted him on it, he's like, well, I just like, I gotta like get my career. And I'm like, yeah, okay. This is like the beginning of Idiocracy. Someday you will come out of the closet and be a hardcore racist. But until then, you're gonna work for all these woke liberal people and make all the And so this is an extreme case. Spectrum, as opposed to someone like you who just like owns everything they say under their name. Me too, Josiah as well. But there's a huge spectrum and a gradient of especially the younger cohort. Like we're Gen X, so we're observing like at kind of like the end of this like whole like logical spectrum. And that's also harder to understand when you hire people. Our friend actually, and like this kind of so stuff. We'll talk about your cancellation later, but stuff that's affected you, for decades ago. But like our friend Kyle Kashuv, who we see now socially. Kyle is I think 23, and he was at the Parkland shooting, or he was at that school.
Right.
And TLDR is like he said some racist stuff when he was 16 or 15 in text, and Harvard rescinded his admission, and he's never gone to college. It's totally transformed his life. He's doing okay.
Right.
But, what he did when he was 15, was going to affect him when he's 50. Okay.
Yeah, and that's insane.
Yeah, and so if he has said some things about like, I don't know, like white people, or he said some communist stuff, no one would care. I think that's the stuff that annoys a lot of people, like me and you.
The double standard, definitely.
Double standards. And so I don't know. So I've been talking about Grace and all these things, and it's like, well, like the guy seems like an asshole and all this stuff. Like, look, grace and the chance to redeem yourself is not given to saints.
Right. Yeah.
It's given to bad people.
Yeah.
And also, I don't understand like how I can't like. Do I have to explicitly lay this out? If that is who Marco Elez is, he's kind of an asshole, right? But what I'm saying is, you got to give people a chance not to be that if they are. Okay.
It's kind of like free speech, right? Like the free speech that no one objects to doesn't need any protection.
Exactly. Like the speech that is like acceptable is free by like its nature.
Right.
Free speech really matters when it's like something extremely objectionable that everyone's like, oh, but the rules are the rules. Right. And so here it's not rules because it's not the law. Here it's like the norm. So what are our norms? And I guess what I would say is when you have someone that was a private citizen, when journalists dig things up, I think like again, it should not be guilty until proven innocent. It should be like, okay, what's going on here? You're now in a different situation in your life. Like, what are we doing going forward?
Yeah, there's like a difference between people who are expressing ideas and like it's under their real name. It's like so when you got fired from the New York Times, right? Like they fired you for the ideas that you're expressing like under your real name, and it's like the New York Times job to like hire people who express the ideas that the New York Times approves of. And so in a way, like I wouldn't consider that really cancel culture. It's like wokeness. It's like political correctness. It's a cancellation, but it's not really cancel culture, because cancel culture is about like digging up the things that people have said that are like irrelevant to their job. It's got nothing to do with their job performance. Like no one ever found anyone that like thought I did a bad job at my job, or thought or found someone that I worked with who didn't like me or anything. Like actually like some of the most liberal people I worked with like helped me find like secret work after I was fired. So it's like, everyone got along with me. There was no problems like dealing with people. The reason I was canceled was just like tweets taken out of context that were intended as jokes. And so like that's what cancel culture is, when they dig things up and take them out of context and, remove the context that you were joking, take things that you said when you were anonymous or when you were a kid and use that to remove you from something that, has nothing to do with that. Like Kyle, like saying things when he is 15 should have nothing to do with his admission to college when he's, an adult.
Yeah, and this was happening a lot in 2020 when things people said on Instagram were sent to universities, and
Right.
but that is like totally ridiculous. And I think we are coming in a backlash from that. I mean, I think you said something that was very interesting, and we'll talk about this during your cancellation. Context and out of context. There's different ways to think about this. So for example, I think like one of the main things, okay, so people like libs, there aren't that many on Twitter anymore, but they're like,
Right.
oh, like you were like a columnist for VDare, which actually was in the year 2000. I sent VDare a letter as a college student, and
Right.
and there's like some stuff in there where I'm like, oh, okay, what the hell? Well, you know what? Like the year 2000 was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And also, like, I was not a public, it's just like,
And VDare wasn't considered this like toxic, like racist thing that it is now. You know what I mean? It hasn't changed, but like it wasn't back in those days. It wasn't the same. It didn't have the same connotation at all.
it had just started out as an anti-immigration site. There wasn't even,
Right. It was just anti-immigration. It was like,
it was like, whatever. But so that is kind of taken out of context, but I did write what I wrote. So that's one level. But then there's the other level, I think, and some of the stuff we'll talk about with you, but sometimes people take things out of context where it's like, actually, that's not even what I meant. And that is the worst level of cancellation, where they say A, but you say that they say B. And it's like, what the hell is going on? Now, I do have to say, this is not like a left-right thing, although the left had more power. Like, when I talk to with like Nazis and stuff, they take stuff out of context all the time. Okay?
Yeah,
You've seen it. And they're like, oh, you're anti-white, you hate white people. And I'm like, okay, like, first of all, like, I use my real name and defend white people. You don't, just like anonymously defending white, So it's just like, I think a lot of people know that it's just like not even true, but people like to take things out of context. And like, this is the way the internet works. You can chunk, and you can even like, the things that I almost like find it clever when people do things where it's like they move over, they start the sentence a couple of words late, and that inverts the meaning of the sentence.
right.
You take the modifier away. Okay, that's obviously just total manipulation, But then I've seen cancel mobs that like start to emerge where it's like they don't fucking know, and like you're never gonna convince them. Like it's like a physical event. It's not like a social thing anymore. It's like something bubbled up, triggered something, and now it's like moving on its own, and how it started is irrelevant,
Right.
And I think like those are the sort of things where why is the institution like caving to that kind of crap? So I know that you have a piece that you're gonna submit about cancel culture.
Yeah.
We get a preview of what you're talking about in that.
I'm really just giving like it's sort of a eulogy and history of cancel culture, like because I consider myself to be patient zero back in 2013, and so it's really just like talking about my experience, kind of from this point of view, and talking about like some of the people who have been canceled since then, and then this current incident with the Doge kid, and how like this is like we're for the first time seeing like really coherent pushback, like from JD Vance, from Elon himself, and where they're going to give this kid his job back, and we're breaking the power of cancel culture. And I think that's like it's really great to see. Finally, I was really livid and upset when this kid was fired in the first place, just on this Wall Street Journal. Like we don't even really know what he said. Like we only can go by what the Wall Street Journal wrote. And this girl who wrote these things in the Wall Street Journal is like, she worked for USAID. She worked for like all of these like really bad government blob agencies. She's not just a straight journalist.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shady shit going on there.
Unpacking this, I mean, this is a real thing. I know some people, well, actually, I think most of our listeners or viewers would be pretty woke to this, but, the CIA, also like Israeli, government of Israel, there's like a bunch of different, there's many actors in the world that use the media.
Right.
And like have journalists, and like to use like a I guess, right-wing example, or just to use a different example. There was a New York Times journalist, I think like last fall or maybe like a year ago. Again, like I feel retarded not remembering like the whole context, but basically there was an atrocity that Hamas had committed. Hamas committed a lot of atrocities, but it seemed like it was basically trumped up, and it seemed like this New York Times journalist had some connection to the Israeli government or like institutions of Israel, and so she was at the New York Times probably to give let's just say a certain perspective. CIA fund, there are people who are CIA agents, almost certainly that, I mean, actually we know this in the media and various institutions, right? There's like weird things. There's weird things that when you understand that the CIA puts people in random places. So the former head of the CIA was a member of the Communist Party of America, which is always like kind of weird. Like, why are they allowing that? I think the most obvious hypothesis is he was actually a CIA agent who was joining the Communist Party, and internally in the CIA, they all know that he was doing that. But like you can't like talk about that sort of thing, so people just ignore it, So we have agents of government and agents of other institutions and think tanks that are always trying to manipulate the media. And the problem is the normal person, if they agree with like the liberal media or they agree with the conservative media or whatever, the mainstream media, whatever, they think, oh, these are just objective actors, but they're not. They are actors.
Yeah, they're not.
Game of discourse.
Right. It was never about this kid at Doge. It's an attack on Doge itself.
Well, they've been going through every individual at Doge.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. But it's not about the individual in question. No one cares that this kid like posted as an anon whatever he posted. No one really gives a damn about it, except that it's a tool to attack Doge, who are dismantling USAID, and it's breaking up the gravy train that all these shady organizations and people have been living off the teat of, and that's why the attack happens in the first place.
Yeah. So they're basically using the tools that they have, and one of the tools is this old cancel culture playbook. And I do have to say, like we are in a certain moment right now. This moment is going to change in terms of things are going to get harder. Do you think? Let me just ask you. Do you think a principled position is even possible? Do you think it's ultimately all just going to be about power and everyone is just going to defend their own side? Do you see what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah, I would hope that we could have a principled, like, I mean, the only principled position you can have is either all racism is okay or no racism is okay. You can't have like this particular racism is okay and this particular racism is not okay. That doesn't work, and it's unprincipled. And I don't think that we can agree that I don't think we're going to get to the point where no racism is okay. So it's going to have to be all racism is okay. That's like it's the only possible Schelling point that I think we can arrive at. And if we're going to make it, not if we're going to have a principled outcome. And I don't know if we can, we maybe can't ever reach that kind of principled outcome, but we can get as close to it as we can, maybe.
Yeah, so I'm seeing certain things. Another problem that I have, I think, with the discussion is confusing anons with real name people, and the anon, and so I saw Matt Iglesias, the centrist liberal commentator, and
yeah,
there were some anons that were basically someone was well, what if he had said anti-white, hating white people is okay, and one commentator was yeah, we would fire him for that because we're in power now, and racism is, hating Indians is good, but hating white people is bad. And the thing is, it was an anon. You don't know who the fuck this person is. They're just popping off online.
Yeah.
So I do have a problem. Again, I don't want to say that I don't want to act like I have a problem with anon culture. There's a role for it, but it's frustrating because they want to participate, but you don't know who they are. And some of them, I mean, some of the most racist accounts turn out to be some Mexican guy. I mean, it's
right. Yeah.
I just don't know what to do with, you're on engagement farming, and, some of the most obnoxious accounts turn out to just be engagement farmers somewhere,
Right.
So they're not really part of the discussion. If I have my name, I mean, there are people like Richard Hanania, people would accuse him of being an engagement farmer, but actually, you can evaluate that.
Yeah.
His situation, who he is, his views and all this stuff. It was just some anon. I don't know if it's real or an engagement farmer. And it's just really frustrating because people are now responding to them as if they have credibility, and some of them do. Some of them are in Doge.
Yeah. Right.
So it's really hard to keep track of.
I mean, I would disagree with that. I would think that he shouldn't be fired either way. If it has nothing to do with his job and he's doing a good job at Doge, I don't think he should be fired either way. It would probably concern me that Doge is hiring a guy who says that he hates white people. That doesn't seem to be that he maybe belongs in the Trump administration. But if he was doing a good job at Doge and Elon thinks he's getting the job done, I would be I would have to not have a problem with it. And I would defer to Elon's judgment in that case. And I think that's what you would have to do. I don't know how you could be no, we're going to fire this guy who's doing a good job dismantling the leftist, gravy train. And I'm going to fire him because we don't even know what he said. We don't even know the context. We're going on what this Wall Street Journal reporter who is a known bad actor is saying. And you can't take anything they say seriously. They're using it as a tool. And you can't really trust it.
Honestly, we're kind of going to be by the time this podcast or this conversation posts, we'll be a little past it. But I wish that Elon or Marco or somebody would just clarify things, because basically there's the initial tweets, and then after that, everything has been organic, an internal conversation without the input of this guy or what he really believes,
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know if I would want him to clarify it, because it comes off like an apology, and it comes off like an excuse, and it just perpetuates kind of the story. And it's better to just let it die. Just leave it at that. Just leave it at, no, we're hiring him back. And that's that. It doesn't matter what he said. It doesn't have any relevance to his job. So to talk about what's the context and what's the what was I actually trying to say, it kind of just builds a distraction, and I think it's unnecessary. And I don't think I would want him to even do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I guess it's I feel I mean, like, how are you feeling so far? I mean, like, you have high standards. I'll say that people don't know. How are you feeling about the Trump administration executive orders so far?
It's been amazing. It's like it's been, I think people are like really blown away by just how like active and assertive he's been, and how really proactive and just, going at it like a maniac. I don't think anyone really expected him to go this hard. I think it's pretty great. It's great to see. It actually, like, it makes prior Republican administrations really look bad. Like, if you guys were trying, how come you don't look like, how come you're not like this? And it's also like a big credit to Trump that he seems to have learned a lot since the 2016 administration. He really, seems to know a lot more of what he's doing and a lot more of how to be effective. And has much better people around him now. They really, like, defeating him in 2020 turns out to be a really terrible move. Like, they should have let him win, and he would have been out of office by now, and they probably could have kept him just as ineffective as he was in the 2016 administration all through 2020. And, he'd be stuck with Pence instead of Vance. There'd be no Vance in the vice presidency. And, I think it was a big.
In our previous conversation, our previous topic, actually, JD, I think, was actually the turning point.
Yeah.
His tweets and his
Yeah.
He also said, actually, Marco also said, like, he doesn't care if Israel and Gaza were just like removed off the map. And he said other things.
Yeah.
Indian stuff, like, one of the major Doge guys, I mean, one of the top whatever level is an Indian guy. So I think that's part of, like, how's he going to work with it, And there's like another like little scandal with like the 19-year-old guy did some security issue at one of the startups. They're trying to like knock them down anyway.
Right. But I know Lomez seems to know some like inside dirt, and was saying that a lot of the Indian guys at Doge were really supportive of him, and saying like, he should be brought back. And he had a lot of inside allies.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense then.
That they were like, don't take this seriously. He's a good guy. And, and they know him. So like, if the Indian guys at Doge don't take this seriously, then that sort of indicates, that he can work with them fine.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, okay. So that's that. And so, I mean, I think like a lot of people have been pretty surprised by JD. Like, obviously, Elon is first consul, like, the great magister doing all this stuff with Doge, and he's getting a lot of press. But, JD's been on the Twitters, kind of articulating a very, I mean, like, in terms of his like attack on cancel culture, I feel like JD, when he tweets, it's like he's a poster. He's one of us. Like, he knows exactly what to say and how to say it.
Right.
He's very good and
very good at it.
Trident, and like gives no inch, right?
Yeah.
Like, he knows exactly what he wants to say. It's like he's been waiting 10 years to say it. Like, all of the arguments.
I'm wearing a Vance 2028 shirt. Like, I'm wearing the hat. Like, I bought this hat like the day after the election, I think.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan. But he's, because Ro Khanna, who's Indian American, he was attacking your. I'm gonna get like some shit from some of the Indian listeners, like, oh, like, he was attacking your family and all this stuff, and he was basically like no, you don't know about my family, you don't know what this kid think, which is like, I think that is actually correct. Like, they were trying to set it up so that they said A, and he responded to A, and he was like, I'm not going to get into this with you on your terms.
Right.
Actually, the only way you can win.
Right.
You go down that path of whether you're going to defend your wife or not, you have lost.
Yeah, right. And Vance is really good at breaking the frame. When someone tries to put him in a frame, he's very good at breaking out of the frame and like looking at the big picture. And for him, the big picture is like, I want my kids to be able to make mistakes and still not suffer like life-changing consequences for it when they're kids. And that's part of, where Vance is coming from. And I think that's powerful. That's a more powerful frame to hit it from.
Yeah. I say like he, he knows exactly how. I mean, it's interesting. I'm gonna do a segue here, and we'll paywall soon because I want to talk about your situation.
Okay.
What happened with you? But it was JD Vance has been he had like a blog. He's been online since around 2010, actively. He's reading from forum. He was reading my blog. That's why I cited in Hillbilly Elegy.
Right.
I mean, still seems like he's listening to the podcast and following our content, my content. When I did the podcast with Cremu complained that he wasn't following him, and then he followed him. So
yeah, right.
Let's say that we have
right.
We have a
JD.
listener. But it's interesting because he's been a public person, and he had this huge book that made him famous and richer than he was. I mean, I'm not saying that his business career didn't do well, but look, once a book hits, and most books don't make any money, but once royalties are free money, right? You don't put any more effort into it. Well, aside from a few interviews, whatever. He's been doing this above board. Then he kind of reinvented himself as MAGA. Then he got elected from Ohio. And then he's vice president. And it's he's been above the board this whole time, but he's also had this life. I think everyone acknowledges in group chats and in these. He knows very online. He knows everything.
Yeah.
He's not confused about anything.
Clear.
Hope you enjoyed the podcast so far. To listen to the rest of it, please go to conversation.substack.com.
Two minds met on a summer's eve, each with truths they long believed. Words flowed like a winding stream as hours passed in deep debate. And after all was said and done, they found a thread of common ground. In listening close, they came to see a shared humanity. They spoke of justice, spoke of change, of history's weight and future's range. Their views at first seemed worlds apart, but patience bridged the divide. And after all was said and done, they found a thread of common ground. And listening close, they came to see a shared humanity. They spoke of justice, spoke of change, of history's weight and future's range. Their views at first seemed worlds apart, but patience bridged the divide. It's not about who's wrong or right, but understanding others' light. In civil discourse we can find ties that gently bind. And after all was said and done, they found a thread of common ground. And listening close, they came to see a shared humanity. As dawn broke soft on dewy grass, they smiled and shook hands at last. Two souls enriched by reason talk, united in respect. And after all was said and done, they found a thread of common ground. And listening close, they came to see a shared humanity. There's folks of a long, thoughtful discussion between two public intellectuals. It emphasizes the power of patient listening, mutual respect, and the discovery of common ground. The gentle tone reflects the common understanding they reach after their debate. Would you like me to expand on any aspect